Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Nick Ray, and I'm back with another smartphone camera comparison with the Pixel 6 Pro and comparing that to the OnePlus 9 Pro, which I'm using to record right now. As I do in all of my smartphone camera comparisons, everything you see in this video is recorded on these two devices, so just keep an eye on the bottom of the screen to see which device and which cameras from that device are being used. But before we take a look at some side-by-side photo and video comparisons, let's take a look at the specs to see how these two devices stack up on paper. First up, we have the Pixel 6 Pro and its triple camera setup on the back of the phone with a 50 megapixel main sensor, which is a huge upgrade over the 12 megapixel sensor Google's been using for the last couple of years. But then it also has a 48 megapixel 4x telephoto camera and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera as well, and all of those can record 4K video at up to 60 frames per second. And then flipping things around to the front of the phone, if it'll focus here, we have a new 11.1 megapixel selfie camera on the Pixel 6 Pro that can also record 4K video at 30 frames per second. And then looking at the OnePlus 9 Pro here, we have a quad camera setup on the back with a 48 megapixel main sensor, 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, 2 megapixel monochrome sensor, and then an 8 megapixel 3.3x telephoto camera. And the rear camera is maxed out at 4K 60 FPS for those first two sensors, while the telephoto camera maxes out at 1080p. And then up front we have a 16 megapixel selfie camera, and that can record video at 1080p 60 FPS. And now that we've taken a look at the specifications of the Pixel 6 Pro, well, this is the OnePlus 9 Pro and the Pixel 6 Pro, I'm going to be taking some side-by-side photo and video comparisons to see how they perform in the real world. This here's a look at video capture on both of these devices with the rear cameras, starting off with the ultra wide camera, and you can make the switch over to the main sensor. And of course these are recording at 4K 30 FPS, and then on the 6 Pro we can switch over to the 4X telephoto camera, but on the OnePlus 9 Pro it's limited to 2x digital zoom since the zoom sensor does not support 4K video. And this here's a look at video capture from the front-facing cameras on both of these devices, and you can probably see the clear difference here with much better dynamic range on the Pixel 6 Pro versus the OnePlus 9 Pro, but also when it comes to resolution as well, the Pixel 6 Pro takes the victory here, being able to capture 4K video at 30 frames per second, while the 9 Pro is still just limited to 1080p. This here's a look at video capture from both of these devices in low light conditions, using the rear cameras with the ultra wide right here, switching over to the main sensor, which of course is going to be the best one for capturing great light in low light conditions like this, and then over to the zoom. But unfortunately on the OnePlus 9 Pro you are limited to 2x digital zoom versus the 4x that we have on the Pixel 6 Pro. Switching over here to the selfie cameras on both of these devices in low light conditions. As you can see, the OnePlus 9 Pro does seem to have a brighter image from what I can tell looking at the screen, but the overall image quality does look significantly better on the Pixel 6 Pro. And again, it does have the higher resolution as well, going all the way up to 4K 30 FPS from that selfie camera. that's going to do it for this camera comparison between the OnePlus 9 Pro and Google's new Pixel 6 Pro. Let me know what you think of the results in the comments below and which device you would rather use on a day-to-day basis for capturing your photos and videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.